I wrote this little piece a long time ago. The title of this was Dances with Ambition. And it was like a reflection on, this eternal fight between being original or just being a people pleaser in the world of art. Maybe I should read it and kind of try to explain what I was thinking when I wrote it. It's written in a very, like the most pretentious way possible. I used a lot of big words that I would never say in real life unless I'm trying to sound like smarter than I actually am. So yeah, I'll just read it. In the art world, people with a lack of personal goals and original vision are usually looked down upon by vicious art enthusiasts and other artists alike. Ambition often functions as a prestige currency to ascribe value to the work of an artist, regardless if the execution of their ideas is skillfully conveyed or not. Creatives who pander to their audience and conform with regurgitating preconceived ideas by other, often more adventurous people are downsized into clout chasers or are blasted with adjectives such as bland, unimaginative, or generic. So yeah, this is kind of like the main thesis of this essay, is trying to challenge that idea of, especially people like me who went to music school and are into like more experimental music. I mean, I don't have the most crazy like experimental avant-garde taste. There's a lot of people who are into much more crazy stuff than I will ever be. I feel like I'm kind of like in the middle of that whole spectrum. I enjoy my pop music. I enjoy my indie pop music. I enjoy some like classical work, some like 20th century stuff, mostly like early. I don't really vibe with a lot of like the super crazy, out there, like late 20th century stuff. If you know me, I love my 90s video game music the most, which is very influenced by like classical music, progressive rock from the 70s, Japanese jazz fusion from the 80s, and so on. And yeah, like later on, I guess, like electronic music, like from the rave scene, like a lot of jungle, a lot of drum and bass, a lot of stuff like that. The thesis, or I guess I haven't really made the thesis yet. So right now I'm just like presenting the situation of like people who just make recreations of already existing things, like say somebody who's making like deep house in a very traditional way, are looked down by people who are trying to, I guess, explore and combine different styles and different influences. I haven't said anything yet, so I'll keep going. So, as a person who employs mostly thought-provoking and obtuse manifestations of art myself, my god, I can't help but mostly agree with this premise on a daily basis. Yeah, I mean, to this day, I still think that the most exciting art is the art that combines different things and combines different pre-existing things. It's not trying to create something like from the get-go. It's just, everybody has more than one influence. Like, I know there's a lot of people, we hear a lot from people that, oh, I only listen to like drum and bass, or I only listen to like punk from the 70s, but I don't think that people exist. Like, everybody listens to at least 3 or 4 different styles that might or might not be close to each other, right? So yeah, I'll keep reading. However, it is important to bring up the paradoxical nature of originality as a creative pursuit. Even the most off-the-grid experimental artists will agree that there is no such thing as creating something outside the context of the already existing pool of artistic works. Nothing is entirely new and nothing is entirely generic. So yeah, this goes back to the idea that I was talking about. Nothing will be entirely new, like 100%. We as artists, we are just recreating things from our memory. So yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty clear. Like, Nothing entirely new, nothing entirely generic. Everything kind of falls in between unless you're you're making some AI shit or actively trying to recreate something either as an exercise or trying to clout chase. I'll keep reading. I can fully say, however, that I have rarely been inspired just to recreate a specific style of music or appeal to a certain demographic when I'm making a new song. That is really true. The hardest thing for me is just to get in the flow of just recreating something. I did that not too long ago, actually, and it felt very unnatural. It felt very I don't know, it just didn't feel right. I remember after ditching that process with the client I was working on, everything had a better flow, just like making something from scratch. So yeah, I don't know if that's a common occurrence with other artists, but I that's the thing with me. I'll keep reading. I draw inspiration from a very eclectic selection of sources, some of which are really difficult to combine in a single piece. I mean, I was just explaining how I work. I like a challenge. When I'm making music, I like thinking, oh, what if this and this coexist? It does often make me wonder that maybe it would be much easier to market myself if I follow a more concise line of aesthetics. Yeah, that's just like a personal note on me having a hard time marketing myself all these years, because if you know my music, if you follow Surloff, or if you've been following Surloff for the past, let's say the past 5 years, my output is very all over the place. Like, I would release a rock song and then I'll release like an instrumental, like dance floor, like out there song, and then I'll do like a R&B thing. Like, it really depends on what I'm feeling and what I'm writing at the time, what I'm going through at the time. Most of my music, at least lyrically, comes from personal places, either past relationships or mental health related experiences, stuff like that. Okay, let's get to the main meat of this. The main question here is it wrong to not have other ambitions as an artist besides playing the game by the numbers and trying to fit into an already existing market and community? Yeah, this is the main question I'm trying to get at here. Is it wrong to just play by the numbers and just try to make a career out of recreating or just fitting into a club that already exists? I think inherently there's nothing wrong with that. I think the issue comes when you're pretending not to do that when you're clearly trying to do that, if that makes any sense. If you wanna just make, I don't know, Imagine Dragons style, like stomp indie pop with guitars, like if that's really your thing, if Imagine Dragons is your favorite band in the world, then just go for it. I mean, people are gonna hate you because it's hip to hate Imagine Dragons. I'm not a big fan myself, but I don't know, I don't hate them, I don't listen to them, but whatever. The point is, if that is your thing, just go for it. I don't care. Like, nobody should care. And you'll find your audience for sure, because that's still a big thing, like in 2025, at least for normies or whoever Imagine Dragons demographic is. Nothing wrong with being a normie, by the way. I'm trying to be more of a normie myself nowadays. Let's say you're doing that, but you're still marketing yourself as being like, I don't know, groundbreaking, or like following your own steps. Or if you're just chasing that sound for clout and make money out of it, I feel like that's when it gets a little bit weird. I mean, technically, I guess nothing wrong with just wanting to make money out of music, but there's so much easier ways to make money, man. Why are you putting yourself in that situation? Like, it's easier to make money just working at retail or at like a coffee shop. You'll make money. I mean, you won't make a lot of money, but you will make enough money to live by and have a quiet, simple life. And In your free time, you can make the music that you want to make. So let's keep reading. There seems to be a clash of interests between the individualist and collectivist mindsets. The former prioritizes originality and artistic integrity, the latter relatability and accessibility. The diplomatic approach to this dichotomy is a balance between both. You can see that my big words are really shining right now. Oh my god. I hope the next time I write something, I don't write it like that, because I don't like it at all. Especially if you're trying to make this into a YouTube video. You would need to have like very high value production, a lot of stock footage, and infographics and like motion graphics and stuff. And I don't think that's gonna be my style like anytime soon. I just want to put stuff out raw and unseasoned, maybe with a little bit of pepper. We'll see. Oh wait, I didn't make a point. Hang on. Again, balance, right? Not trying to be like a people pleaser and not trying to just like be super self-indulgent. Find a middle ground. And I feel that's my favorite music. Like, I love like indie and artsy pop music that still has like a pop structure. It's still like trying to be catchy, but it has interesting production, or like cool like harmonic language, or like cool instrumentation that you wouldn't hear in like a top 40 pop song. I mean, sometimes like those songs like make it big. This is not a very recent example, but like Somebody That I Used to Know by Gautier, that didn't sound like the sound of that time at all, and it still became like a huge hit. And even to this day, like, you have the Doechii like new version with Anxiety, like it or not, but it's still a hit. And I think that's mostly because the instrumental is so good. I mean, Doechii is also talented. So yeah, too much self-indulgence results in an unapproachable art, where too much complacency results in shallow and uninteresting art. None of the extremes are actually invalid approaches, though. Art, before being a discipline, a business, a symbol of intellect and spiritual value, is merely a human activity that bridges the abstract world of ideas and the tangible world where all living earthly beings coexist. Oh my god, I'm 16 and this is so deep. But yeah, no, I still agree with that. Nowadays it's very hard to separate art from content. Everything is content. This thing that I'm doing right now is content. You could argue that it's art, but it's probably more content. I don't know, I'm just trying to vent and talk about things, Maybe out of this, like, I don't know how long this is already, probably like a couple, like 10 minutes. Maybe it will be like 20 minutes when I finish reading this. Maybe if I can make one reel, like 1 minute reel out of this, I'll be happy. If I can make like a 10-second reel out of this, I'll be happy, honestly. I don't even know if this is still recording. Oh yeah, okay, it is. And is the audio recording? Yeah, okay, cool. Just checking. Art, before being any of those things, art, it's also a business. People make money off art. But art in essence is not a business or content or status symbol, because art is also a privilege. Making art is a privilege. Consuming art is a privilege. Having the time to sit down and watch a movie or listen to a full album with no distractions, it's something that not all of us can do. If you work a 10, 12 hour shift, you're not gonna have the energy to do any of this. Nowadays, I guess it's more accessible. You have streaming, like both for music and movies and shows, and it's just more accessible. And you have YouTube, which is free, and you have access to all this people creating art, which is great, but also minimizes the value of a piece of art, because you can consume a lot of things in so quickly and with little resources. But I'm digressing, so let's get back in topic here. I think it's important to remember that art, creating music, like drawing, painting, making, like writing, creating stuff like this, It's a means of expression. It's a means of communicating ideas, communicating emotions, and that's the main thing. Business, making money, like getting attention are results of that, but it's not the end, it's not the purpose of art. Like collateral damage, like consequences of putting something out and, people resonating with what you're saying or the way you're presenting, the aesthetics of it, the style of it, all that. Yeah, I think that's what I meant when I wrote that. Anyways, everything else is a subjective added perspective on it that should always be taken with a grain of salt. Yeah, I agree with that. Of course I agree with that, I wrote that shit. There is another angle to go over here. The relation between ambition and mental health. Oh, I didn't even remember this part. It's getting interesting. So, self-improvement is often the target motivation for pursuing more challenging endeavors. Unfortunately, in our current post-internet social media-driven era, attention and validation are the actual currencies being traded. This tends to hinder the creative process into something more akin to a redemption arc in a narrative work, a way to prove all dissidents wrong, a way to eradicate all doubts regarding the worth of your creative output. This unfathomable pressure ends up translating into stress, self-doubt, envy, anger, and in the worst cases, an absolute loss of self-worth. Damn, that's a lot to unpack there, so let's go back a little bit. There is another angle to go over here, the relationship between ambition and mental health. Okay, so I think here I was thinking about, the archetype of the tortured genius artist. We see this a lot in movies, we see this a lot in, like, artists, real artists, real musicians who, spent like 5 years creating this masterpiece album that captures, all the suffering and all the grievances they were going through while they made that. I would be a hypocrite if I say that's a bad thing, because most of my favorite albums have backstories like that. And most of my favorite movies also have, like, lore that goes into very depressing, like, stories of people spending so much time, so much resources, going through so many, like, issues during the production of the art piece. At the end you have, like, this redemption, this, like, oh my god, was all worth it because I created, like, one of the most amazing things humanity has ever experienced. It would be good to reevaluate that. Most artists we consume nowadays either be like mainstream pop artists or underground niche artists that a group of people really, really, really like. Most of those artists come from a point of privilege. Like, they had the resources, or they were connected in the industry, or they lived, in the big cities where most of the artists get discovered and most of the music industry is, or whatever industry. I mean, I'm gonna talk about music mostly because that's what I know the most. I think people don't really think about that. Everybody you think so high of, they're in a different level. They're in a different league of background. I think it's important to realize that, and also to separate yourself from that. Because those people you idolize, they were the lucky ones. And just think of all the people we don't know that are in the same level of quality of music. They have similar ambition and similar, like, uniqueness to them, but we don't know of them because they just weren't lucky enough. And there's gotta be millions of those. There's a lot of competent art that will never be heard by a huge amount of people. The size of your audience shouldn't be like a big point of reference when we're talking about quality of something. And again, it's hard to also agree with that, while I'm usually drawn to things that are already, making some hype in the underground scene or whatever. Or music reviewers from the internet are talking about it, or somebody recommends to me. So yeah, I feel a lot of us struggle with that. Like, I think it's important to keep a distance between I'm making this for myself and I'm making this for the praise, which is like a critically friendly way of pander to an audience. It's like I'm pandering to the general audience by making like very by the numbers pop music, or I'm pandering to the critics, trying to create like the most avant-garde, like transgressive piece of art the world has ever seen. Everything goes back to balance, which is not a very deep conclusion, but I'm just trying to explore these ideas. I hope you're having fun so far. I think I am. Let's just keep going. This video is so messy. It's okay. Artists over history have shown a toxic obsession with transcendence. The idea of an artist's work extending beyond their lives and becoming a pivotal piece in the zeitgeist of pop culture. The idea of leaving a legacy of future generations to be studied and analyzed by art intellectuals and philosophers. The problem with this is that in this context, ambition becomes a means to an end instead of a virtue. An artist who is in good terms with itself understands that self-expression in its purest form will inherently translate into a unique and idiosyncratic manifestation of the self. Ideally, ambition acts more as a catalyst that fuels the creative process, as an attempt to get to know yourself better and reach a more refined artistic language. Ambition is not the goal. Like, making something important is not the goal. The goal is to express yourself, and trying to express yourself as truthfully as you can. Whether that is, again, making pop music or like a 20-minute like avant-garde noise thing, it doesn't matter. It's all about being truthful and doing things that you enjoy doing, things that you have fun doing, and not things that are gonna be good for the algorithm or that are gonna be good for music critics on the internet. I think a healthy mindset for artists is to have like distance from that ambition. That ambition is kind of like the fuel that keeps you going, but it's not the main goal. Okay, final paragraph. Pushing the envelope for the sake of pushing the envelope will only lead to a disingenuous result, which may still be unique, but will lack emotional connection and soul. This might be the objective for some artists who take pleasure in the act of experimenting for its own sake. But if you're trying to express complex ideas and feelings through your own voice, there needs to be a pact of utter sincerity and openness with yourself in order to let your inner thoughts resonate into the real world. Okay, I like that last paragraph a lot. I'm not trying to like suck my own dick here right now. I read this a couple times after I wrote it. I even run it through ChatGPT, and ChatGPT, they were like, oh yeah, this sounds like you're writing a report for like university or like your PhD or something. You're not speaking like a human being. And I kind of agree. And that's kind of ironic, like that ChatGPT said that to me. Sick burn, bro. I think I kind of spoiled the conclusion like from the beginning. I should have just read the whole thing first and then give my thoughts on it. But that would also be like more heavy on you. I think the whole point of me writing this was to address my own issues dealing with, ambition and trying to make better art every time I do something new. Because I've been making music for so long, it's very easy for me to get something done really quick. I can draft a whole song in like a couple hours, but then it takes days to refine that and to actually finish it. But then it comes a point where it's like, okay, how farther I want to take this. There's a point where something is finished and it's completely serviceable, but then there's that voice in your head that compares I don't know, whatever you're doing with like the craziest, most like ornate Baroque production style music that you know, and you start thinking like, oh, this is not as good as that. It doesn't have as many layers. It doesn't have as many, you know, like ear candy going at you like all the time. Like, because I mean, I listen to a lot of music like that, and I really enjoy listening to music like that. But at the end of the day, like the production is not the thing that brings me back. The songwriting is the ideas. It's like the emotion. It's the song. It's not the production. Of course, like good production will enhance a song a lot, but even the best production won't save like a bad song. I think at the end, when I feel like I'm not going any further, I just call it quits and just get it done the way it is, like mix it to the best of my abilities, master it to the best of my abilities, and just put it out. Now that I'm not bound to the current model of releasing music, you know, the 6-week plan of release a single every 6 weeks and have all this promotion about it and all that, you know, if you want to do that, that's totally fine with me. If you want to be like a performing artist, you should probably do that. Follow all the advice. Doesn't guarantee that it's gonna work, but it's gonna help, and hopefully you can build an organic fan base. That is not the road that I want to go through anymore. I want to go through the road of producing for other people, creating my own thing without any pressure, releasing whenever I want, making music for games. That's the main thing. If you're making a game right now and you need music, hit me up. But yeah, that's the gist of it. I want to keep writing more stuff in the future, talk about other hot topics right now. I don't think this is like necessarily a hot topic. I don't see it brought up as often, and I feel we have epidemics is such a hot this is such a buzzword right now. You know, the male loneliness epidemic, performative male epidemic, but we artists as a collective, as a whole, we have an epidemic of fake ambition, like corrupted ambition, corrupted by desires of fame and recognition and transcendence and all these things. And we have an epidemic of clout chasing and just trying to feed the machine with things that we don't necessarily want to do. Like, again, if you like doing content, if you like making reels every day, if you want to pursue that, that's totally fine. I tried that. Maybe I didn't try hard enough, but just didn't feel right with me. I would have to compromise a lot of the things that I enjoy doing just to have a more normal music career, and I don't want to do that. Like, I like a lot of different styles of music. Wouldn't feel right to just make one thing just to, you know, market myself better, whatever. But at the same time, I don't want to feel obligated to prove myself that because I'm capable of doing like grandiose things, I have to. I want to allow myself to have fun with it and just create fun pop songs if I feel like it, or just create random, like, you know, video game tunes with like a retro style if I feel like it, or just create like wacky like electronic dance music if I feel like it. But yeah, hopefully you're gonna see a lot of that. I'm finishing up a song. I'll probably release it in a few weeks. It won't be on streaming, unfortunately. I'll upload it to Bandcamp, maybe SoundCloud and YouTube, and that's about it. I feel like going back into the MySpace era, or my early, you know, sharing stuff in Facebook era. I just like finish something, it's good enough to show it to the world, here it is. And maybe create some content around it, or just talk about the way I made it, or I don't know. Honestly, don't know. I just wanted to start doing this. This is my first time doing anything like this. Thanks for listening to me. Bye.